Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unconnoisseur. We're here to talk about an amazing album tonight, but before we get the episode started, I just want to read a quote. I was watching a PBS news about Wynton Marsalis, and he's got this amazing quote that's going to fit right in with our artist tonight. Wynton's quote is, "Our music takes us away from individualism into the feeling of community, which is a shared responsibility, shared rights, and the creation of space for others to be creative and to be a part of the process." Tonight's album, we're going to talk about Kurt Rosenwinkel and the album The Next Step from 2001. We are using Nate Chennon's list as our guide as this portion of our jazz journey. So I just want to welcome everyone to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Drew. Hi, Dad. How you guys doing?
Beautiful. Great. It's good to be here.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too. You too.
I look forward to hearing y'all's take on Kurt Rosenwinkel in this particular album and what else y'all got into of his work, because it's been a great week listening to his music and learning who he is, and putting the names in my mind for who else has played on the album. So I'm looking forward to y'all's take.
Yeah.
And y'all's week. I know it's been busy weeks for everybody. We just finished Mother's Day. So, again, we're recording about 9 days before this comes out. So, happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers that are listening. Tip of the hat to you. Cool.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm super excited about Kurt. I'm kind of I'm kind of mad at myself for waiting this long to know or recognize the name. I'm kind of mad at Jazzwise for not putting him on the top 100 list and us having more weeks of Kurt Rosenwinkel in our ears. But you know what? That's what the journey is for. I made it in my notes this week. Remember why we started. The reason we started this channel is because we were in a musical rut. We were listening to the same things over and over again. And I got to be honest, I can only hear Living on a Prayer a few more times before I go clinically insane, because we've got to be more than halfway there by now, right? That song came out in what, 87, 88?
Yeah.
And
do you still listen to that?
We've got to be more than halfway there now.
Living on a halfway prayer.
We're halfway there. Whoa. But anyways, we started our journey to get some fresh music in our ears, and I'm excited again this week. I'm just super excited because this has been a great week to get back to the feeling of great music, great different music in my ears. So yeah.
So true. So very true.
So
I think we're seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel as we progress through this list.
Well, yes, I see very faint light because we've got 120 more albums to go still. So we've just actually entered the tunnel. I may be seeing shadows thinking that's light at the end of it, but after 129 weeks, I think we're going to have a much better appreciation and understanding of what 2000 to 2018 music in jazz really is. As we get ready to listen to clips, I will just say this. I called the both of you today to say that my epiphany this week has been that. We've moved from 1985 and all the way back to 1928, 1925 with Bix and Jelly Roll. And we love that particular style of music for a reason, and it became comfortable. And Matt, Living on a Prayer was comfortable. We were out of the rut. Well, 2020 and 2021 are really taking us even beyond getting out of that rut. We're in a whole new place today, and I think there's some reasons for that, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But Kurt Rosenwinkel.
You know what
step is this?
Yes. Yeah. What's the next step?
Who wants to go first? Who's on first? Actually, Matt's on first.
Yep.
Oh, I'm on first. Okay. Well, my pick for a clip this week is the very first song on the album called Zhivago. It's a beautiful intro to the album anyways, and just play me the first 45 seconds or a minute, however long you want to go. It doesn't really matter. And this really just kind of focuses on Kurt and his playing. But
Good.
yeah, go ahead and play Zhivago. Okay.
Is that all you're going to play?
That's it. For all of you who want more of that, it's the first track. Just go ahead and dive in.
Yeah. Yeah, please. Now, I'm excited this week, and I promise myself, and I'll promise you guys, I'm not going to reference Pat Metheny too much tonight, but Pat is listed as one of Rosenwinkel's influences.
Yeah.
I can really hear Pat's influence on Kurt in that particular section piece of the song. It's got the same tone and timbre that Pat plays with. It's got the same kind of feeling, that just laid back. I'm in control, and here's what I've got for you. That I almost gave you just the producer's choice of picks. We could pick any clip in any section of this album tonight and feature Kurt and just talk about how great it is. I'll let you know right now, I'm excited about tonight. I really
You've
am.
enjoyed it. How much of your enjoyment of this music is because it reminds you of Pat Metheny, or how much of it is just purely that Kurt has a very unique sound?
Both,
Okay.
actually, both. Because I'm excited because he does remind me of Pat, but I have to stay away from Pat because it could become a rut for me. And if I'm going to listen to jazz, I need to expand. But now I can get my Pat fill with listening to someone else, Kurt. But they're too different though. Even though
I was going to ask you, would you? But yes, they are different.
Yeah, very different. Very, very different. I can hear the influence. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I can totally hear the influence. So go ahead, Dad.
Yeah, I really like that piece. I almost chose it myself. And then obviously I went to another track. And the track I chose was Filters. And I'd like that to start at 2:35. The track Filters. I don't know what number it is, maybe 6 or so, 5 or 6.
Number
Fine.
5 on the album.
Okay, go for it.
I just want to let it run longer. I really do. The interplay between those two.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick that, Dad?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I chose it. I like the movement in this track. to me, it's very significant. Perhaps I like it because, to me, it harkens back to the jazz that we're used to.
Yeah.
I know we need to move on and appreciate jazz as it's becoming, it's evolving, it's changing over the years. But I just like this track because of that. It's got a real feel to it. The movement is sharp. I'm thinking the word dignified came to me. This is a dignified piece of jazz music. Okay? So I don't know what are the other you guys have to think about that or say about that.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to say it does harken back to the play between musicians. We've talked about the greats for so many years about how they could play with one another and pick up on the riffs from one another. That comes from the musicianship of years and years and years of togetherness. Mark Turner and Kurt Rosenwinkel have been on many albums together. So there's no doubt that they are used to one another's riffs or vocabulary. So they played well on that, but it does harken back to that bebop stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and with that, what they had their stint, their run at the 5 spot, right, which is the jazz club.
Yep.
And for years it was the Kurt Rosenwinkel quartet, and so they've been playing together for quite a while. It was the 5 spot, correct? I'm pretty sure it was 5 spot.
Double check, yes, but
yeah.
If we're wrong, I'll put a banner across to your correction.
But the conversation, though, that's a conversation between those two, and they're almost finishing each other's sentences. That's the part I liked about it. It goes right back to the quote that I read at the beginning of the episode: the feeling of community, which is shared responsibility. Kurt, he's not riffing off the guy. He's actually following. He's following the conversation. You know, that's when. Oh man, I'm just so excited. I'm even drinking decaf tonight. So
that's awesome.
Just a quick question. Did we recognize Kurt Rosenwinkel's, the title of this album, The Next Step?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah.
Drew, what's your choice?
The song that I wanted to hear from, I think it plays really well with the movement of this. Matt focuses on Zhivago and Kurt's ability. You look at the two together, both Kurt and Mark Turner on tenor saxophone playing together, and I wanted to look at the use of light, which just really shows me how Kurt takes a step back and lets the other members of the band shine while even just recording. Use of Light is a 9-minute song, so the solos all have a breath about them as well as a smooth movement. We're jumping in just as Mark Turner on the tenor saxophone begins to build his solo, and I will end that right before he gets into some heavy bebop here. So I'm going to start Use of Light at 4 minutes and 40 seconds. building, and it's going to get there. There are a couple of things that really hit me. I've always loved Dwayne Shorter, and not associating the two together, but Mark Turner's ability to just play and leave absolute room. In photography, the use of light is a major conversation. But in order to really have contrast, you have to have the shadows or the dark spots. And that silence to me is just him shutting off the tone and then bringing up the light again. So I love that. The other thing is, I really am a flugelhorn player. And if I can't play the flugelhorn, it'll have to be the trombone. There's something about a tenor saxophone in that the darker tones that come from it. It's not as harsh or as sharp as an alto. I love the tone and the way in which he breathes through it. It makes me understand that he did play with another trumpeter that we both talked about and love and admire. Mark Turner played with Ibrahim Malouf. And I love the soul that Ibrahim brings in his albums. So, shebang, that's why I wanted that clip.
Good clip.
It's an amazing clip.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all week I've had the feeling from Kurt of community,
Yes.
of composition. You know, when you listen to a Pat Metheny album, there's compositions that he does that highlight others, but a lot of his work is highlighting himself. In stark contrast to Kurt Rosenwinkel, who writes for everyone else, and then he only does what he needs to do.
Yes.
He's a phenomenal guitar player, don't get me wrong, but his writing style almost is humble and you first, and then I'll come in later.
Yes.
That's what gets me about Kurt more than anything is the compositions, the way that he composes his tunes, and right there in your clip, not really highlighting, but again, giving Mark Turner space to play. It's simply amazing. I mean, it's just simply amazing.
Let's get in while we're talking about clips. Dad, did you want to say something about that? I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. Well, let me, even as I think about it, as we talk about this album, and we're not going to talk ratings right now, but this happens almost every week. I give a rating, and then as we talk about it, as we hear the clips, I think, man, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I underrate the real musicianship. I underrate the composition. My first several times through it, I don't get a spark. And so, you know, I'm not a musician. I'm definitely an unconnoisseur.
That was our Tuesday morning conversation for the top 100 almost every single week.
Yeah. We
would talk about all the exciting stuff that each one of us learned about the artist and talk ourselves into. I'm changing my score before
yeah.
Right now. I had it hard coded, but I'm changing it.
It reminds me of that. This is our Tuesday mornings. It just happens to be on Monday nights when we sit and record. But
yeah.
It is the same thing that we're talking about, though, with Kurt. It's the community. It's the democracy of music. It's listening and letting everybody else have an opinion. And maybe we're persuaded, and some nights maybe we won't be. Y'all don't dig some of the free jazz that I dig. And I may not always dig the things that you dig, but you dig it.
We're coming off of 3 weeks of music that I don't want to say I didn't enjoy, but were rough. You know, Chicago Underground Quartet, John Hollenbeck and the Claudia Quintet, and Marilyn Crispell. Those were rough weeks to listen to. And then you come into Kurt Rosenwinkel not knowing what to expect. We have heard Kurt because he was on the Brian Blade Fellowship album, Perceptual. But again, when you're focusing on Brian Blade, I hate to say it, but you're not focused on Kurt Rosenwinkel and what he's doing in the guitar.
No.
So this week we get to focus on Kurt Rosenwinkel, and I'm kicking myself again for not knowing him 100 weeks ago or 80 weeks ago or 50 weeks ago.
But we know him now. And I think this was the gist of my phone call to you guys this morning, is that what we don't know, we don't know. And this harkens back to the very beginning of this journey. In order to learn it, how to went and say it?
You got to go there to know. You got to, go there
to know there. And we're going there so that we know who these musicians are, so that we begin to recognize their approach, their compositions, or their sound. We begin to know who they are. I wouldn't have known Mark Turner, and I would have definitely never paid attention to him playing with Ibrahim Malouf. Now, of course, I'm going to be looking for Mark Turner on albums. He's a name that will stick out. But he's also played with Joel Fram. He's also played with Brad Maldonado. He's played with a host of people who now all of a sudden you're going to go, oh, yeah, that's Kurt Rosenwinkel. I wonder if that's Kurt on that song. I wonder if he will know him. But we've had to go here, and it does stretch our boundaries. It stretches our comfort zone here, for sure. Stretches mine.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm just so excited because I enjoyed the music so much.
Yeah.
And that again, that's why we do this. Just like I've said, 119 weeks now. Whatever you do it to jazz. You can tell that we're jazzed up about the conversation tonight. We pretty much do this all week long. Listen to jazz, come back and talk to you guys about the album that we're checking out. We are using the list from Nate Chinnon's book called Playing Changes. Playing Changes is available at your local bookstore and Amazon.com. This is not a commercial for Nate Chinnon. I'm just like to relay the information that we're using and why we're doing what we're doing. If you're lazy like I am, we've all three read the book. We purchased the book and we read the book, but you can find the list of 129 albums from Kurt at playingchangesbook.com/essential albums. We're in the year 2001. So far, we've covered Chicago Underground Quartet, John Hollenbeck, and Marilyn Crispell. And again, this week on the list for 2001, Kurt Rosenwinkel, The Next Step. I put together just a brief bio of Kurt. I love doing this. It gets me even more interested, and I actually couldn't wait to do the bio slide. So it was from last Thursday, just 2 days after we started listening to Kurt. Kurt started playing the guitar he started playing jazz on the guitar at age 12. So he's no, slouch. He's been playing jazz guitar for a while. One of the other facts that really stood out to me, he toured with Gary Burton. Okay. Now, if you've watched our episodes, go back and watch our Gary Burton episode. Don't stop this video to go watch Gary Burton. But our conversation on Gary Burton, he blew us away that week. I mean, Gary just blew us away. I remember the conversation that he had with Pat Metheny. Yeah, come to me with some music, but make it great, or don't come to me at all. And I feel like he probably said the same thing to Kurt Rosenwinkel.
Well, imagine this. One of your influences is Pat Metheny, and now you're on tour with Gary.
Yeah.
Who told Pat, come back when you got something real. Don't come at me with just guitar playing. And now you're following in Pat Metheny's footsteps with his mentor.
Right. Yeah. You're touring with Yoda.
No pressure. Just don't come with that crap towards me, because I've already been here with Pat Metheny.
Right.
Bring the goods, baby. Bring the goods.
Yes, absolutely. So he toured with Gary Burton just after 2.5 years at Berklee. He spent 2.5 years and then went on tour with Gary Burton. In 2016, he started his own record label called Heartcore Records. That's very impressive to me. I feel bad because today's artists, they don't make money on the music. The record labels, the producers, they all make money on the music, and the artist is sometimes sidelined with getting paid. So Kurt started his own label called Heartcore Records. I was really impressed with that fact. Tal Harlow, Pat Metheny, John Coltrane, Keith Jarrett, and Alex Lifesons were just some of his influences. I love the wiki page this week. It's chock full of information about Kurt. And, whenever I don't have to go digging for influences, I love that fact that I can just look it up. Now, we talked about Pat, and I know Pat. I can pick Pat's music out from a mile away, but I never knew Tal Harlow. I never knew who he was. So we'll talk about it later, but I put some of Tal's music in my ears this week. Yeah. Of course, Coltrane. I don't really hear the Coltrane influence in Kurt's playing. And and Alex Lifeson. I mean, come on. If you're gonna list if you're gonna list him as an influence.
Well, now I want to say this. Imagine him being one of your influences and then playing on Brad Maldo's Jacob's Ladder.
Uh-huh. Yep.
A great tribute and tip of the hat to Rush and prog rock. So, yeah, I had to go back and listen to that one this week.
I kind of figured you did. So, it's just fun listing some of the influences, because I get excited to go check out the influences and who influenced him. He does have 18 albums as a leader, and then just way too many to count as a sideman. So he's got an extensive collection of music to go listen to. And like I said, we've already listened to him on the Brian Blade Fellowship. But again, we're focused on Brian Blade that week. I'm sure we read the names, but it just never clicked. It never clicked to me.
One that hit me though was last week. We talked about Paul Motion.
Uh-huh.
And he's played on 4 albums with Paul Motion.
Yeah.
One of which was Play Monk and Play Powell. And I thought, my goodness, the names are starting to associate themselves. We're starting to build that bridge between all of these great musicians from 2000 and on. So, yeah. Too many as a sideman, including Q-Tip.
Yes. Now, the funny part is I was watching the Rick Beato interview that you sent us, and he references Q-Tip like he knows who he is. I don't know who he is. I have to be honest. Q-Tip. Okay. Do you?
I do. I know. I know of.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, when you've had an opportunity to play, it's that bridge. Like I'm trying to think. Erykah Badu and Hargrove played with a lot of people outside of the norm. Robert Glasper pulls a lot of this in.
M-bass music too. Yep, all the Steve Coleman and M-bass music.
These together, and Q-Tip is one of those connections that was made, and they'll be friends for a long time after a collab like that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Before you move on, I know we're not talking about the album cover, but I want a hat just like his.
The straw fedora?
The straw
fedora. I want a fedora just like that.
He pulls it off nicely, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
That's the other thing that impresses me about Kurt is some of the videos he's wearing different styles of hat, different kinds of hat. I really like the lower brow, not necessarily the driving cap, but he wears like almost an army style black hat that he wears while he plays. So yeah, I'm a hat guy, and I don't know. I just like.
I'll find a good straw one for you. It's more common here in Texas than it will be in the Midwest.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I've got buy a nice felt warm hat for the Texas heat.
Really? Because I know some Amish guys that I could probably go get a hat off of right now.
The brims are going to be too big. They're going to go look like Amish hats.
Yeah,
fedoras.
Well,
oh yeah. Okay. All right.
I could make that happen a little bit with this stuff.
Oh, Matt's gonna hook you up.
All right, so I did go ahead and include a quote from Kurt this week. I like to quote it again. It references his feeling of community. I define jazz as an immediate interactive experience, and I value understanding its vocabulary. The immediate interactive experience is what I really wanted to highlight on the quote. It's fun to listen to an album, but I can't imagine going to see Kurt live in concert. The interactive experience of sitting there watching him play, watching the band play together, it would just be amazing. It would be amazing.
Was that something about community and listening that was part of the interview that we watched? The importance of listening? 'Cause
Yes, this
seems like I
don't
heard
think
that.
was the Rick Beato. I think we were looking at something else because he's teaching. There's a lot of great information out there on Kurt on YouTube, so you can watch a lot of different videos. But I think one of those shorts that one of us sent out does talk about that. You got to be listening to those around you.
Yeah, I know I wrote something down, but I don't have it right here. But you got to listen to it and to appreciate it, to understand it. I can't remember specifically, but basically, you got to listen to jazz to hear what is being said and hear what the music is all about before you just discount it altogether.
Jazz is a language of its own. It's different than the classical music. It's different than the rockabilly music. It's different than rock and roll. It's different than
Blues.
everything. Yeah, blues. It's different. And the vocabulary is different. It is a different language. And so you put the words together differently, and it sounds like you're translating it through three languages. It's just jazz for jazzers. And I struggle with that. I'm still learning how to put cat and hat and bat together to spell them out, let alone how to construct sentences through my solos. So learning from the greats is listening from the greats. So I think that's what you're touching on.
If I may, this I think correlates to some of what we're saying. But I looked up a quote for the day, and it's an old Zambia proverb that says, when you run alone, you run fast. But when you run together, you run far. Okay? I think Rick Warren came up with that or found that. But we're talking about community here. And if we're all alone and listening to jazz, we've got one perspective and we might just blow right through it. Don't take time to listen to it because I can't appreciate it. It sounds crazy. It's too squawky or it's too whatever. But when you're interacting together, you can go a lot farther with it. That's kind of what we're doing, isn't it?
And you can go a lot farther if somebody knows where they're going.
Yeah.
So, thanks for the guide that we have from this book to know where we're going, because it's at least helping us run together.
Yeah. Good.
Cool.
All right, my final slide. Just thank you so much for letting me do the information. I really do appreciate it. You can find more information about us and our channel at theunconnoisseur.com. That's our website. We also have a merchandise store there. There's a link in the top right-hand corner, the Unconnoisseur merch store, where you can find iPhone covers and coffee mugs and mouse pads and t-shirts and stuff. We do have a 24-hour streaming radio channel called WTUR.org. Simply put that in your browser or your smartphone, and you can stream jazz 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For our podcast listeners who don't want to look at our beautiful faces and just want to hear our amazing conversation, you can go to Amazon, iTunes, and Spotify and hear our podcasts. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, hit that bell so you get notified of when our new episodes drop, which happens to be Tuesday mornings right around 8:00, and I usually get the first like.
Yes, you do.
Usually. I didn't this week.
What?
Somebody else beat me to it.
You're kidding.
Nope.
I wonder if it was your mom.
I may have been up watching it, but
Oh boy.
All right.
Buddy.
So yeah, let's dive even deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to go back to purely discussing The Next Step from Kurt Rosenwinkel, released in 2001, and it featured, I just want to say this, Kurt Rosenwinkel on the guitar and piano, Mark Turner on tenor saxophone, Ben Street on the bass, and Jeff Ballard on the drums. This came out on the Verve record label, and it was actually recorded May through June of 2000 before it came out in 2001. Total length is 61 minutes long. It's got 8 wonderful songs that you can get lost into at any point in time. So, ready, set, who wants to talk really feelings, and then we'll just roll it in.
I just want to plug Jeff Ballard for a minute. Okay. Jeff, the drummer, also has played with Chick Corea, played with Brad Maldou, and played with Pat Metheny. And he's on 5 of Kurt Rosenwinkel's albums. So when you talk about somebody who's somebody, you need to include Jeff Ballard. So he's worth mentioning as well.
I didn't realize that was the Blue and White album with Pat Metheny.
Yes, Metheny Maldou.
Yeah, Metheny Maldou from
Yep.
2005, and then the Metheny Maldou Quartet.
Yep.
Holy dookie, I hadn't seen that, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, well, again, we're not talking about chump musicians here. We're talking about a group of professionals who can let each other shine when they need to, and come to the forefront and shine when they need to. So,
well, and I have to be reminded, 2023 was the latest album, Undercover, live at the Village Vanguard from Kurt Rosenwinkel.
I mean, come
Still
on.
out touring. I mean, the reality is this isn't yesteryears of the past. Oh, I wish I had a chance to go hear a master musician play jazz. He's still touring. These guys are. So,
Kurt, if you're in the Chicago area, on May 23rd, Kurt will be performing at Garcia's in Chicago, Illinois, May 23rd, and then he'll be in Milwaukee on the 24th. So that's as close as he's going to get to me. I'm not sure that I will drive to Chicago to see him. But who knows? I may get a wild hair.
buy him some tickets, and I bet he'll drive.
Yeah.
We'll send you his physical address to mail the tickets to, or email address.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And if anybody wants to ship me up there to get all 3 of us to go to the concert, you're more than welcome to do so. Reach out to me in the comments or hit me up below.
That's basically Memorial Weekend, right?
Oh, yeah, I can't go.
Yeah.
I'll drop everything.
Yeah.
Send me tickets. Anywho.
Yeah. So, okay, Dad, why don't you start us off?
Well, I feel like I'm way behind, because when I'm listening to it in the car, all these ideas come to my mind, and by the time I stop, I've lost what my comments would otherwise be. As I sit here at home and listen to it, I have a completely different perspective. So it's hard for me to evaluate. However, after listening to the interview, I learned so much to appreciate Kurt and his ability, his musicianship, his composition. I have to say, however, listening to this album, The Next Step, it didn't do anything for me. I just felt like, come on, let's get on, let's get through, let's get beyond. Okay, I remember this, what I was thinking. You've had fireworks and firecrackers, when you light the fuse and you hear that sizzle of the fuse going, and you anticipate boom. Throughout these tracks, I was waiting for a boom. I was waiting for a blast. And honestly, it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me. And again, that's my perspective. That's my lack of understanding. That's my unconnoisseur perspective. So now I'm going to ask, can I change my score? Can I change my rating?
You haven't told us yet. So.
No,
yeah, you're safe for the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Change your score.
Okay, good.
I changed mine just a few minutes ago.
Okay, good. All right.
And this goes back to my thoughts here. What is the boom? We used to get slapped by Parker or Coltrane or Davis even going into the 70s with the electric music, In a Silent Way or Bitches Brew. All of these things would slap us in one way or the other. And in the new 2000, the newer music isn't slapping us as hard. The things that hit us, Brian Blade Fellowship, is a throwback to yesteryears. So much of the music reminds us of what we found as a comfort zone. And so this newer stuff may not slap as hard, but it is slapping all the same. My question would be this: is it for the musicians or is it for the audience? And that was stuff that we talked about with Parker. Even if you're thinking about musicianship, Clifford Brown, that was for the musicians, but he had such a way to present it that even the audience loved hearing it. So I wonder, my question really, Dad, is in the weeks to come and in the weeks past, I've been wondering, what's going to slap you? What will it take for you to be smacked like I was with Black Codes from the Underground, or Blues and the Abstract Truth, or I'm thinking of Cannonball Adderley's, something else. So
Yeah.
what will slap you? And I'm going to be watching for this, because there's going to be something that stands up and it grabs you by the shirt collar and smacks you a couple of times. I want to know what that is. So I'm staying tuned watching that.
Yeah.
Good.
But I'm going to keep rolling, because I don't think that it hit me that hard as well. It's beautiful music. It's great to listen to in almost any condition, whether I'm weed eating the front yard or moving rocks or blowing the driveway off or even vacuuming the car. I've done a lot of things to Kurt Rosenwinkel this week, and this particular album kind of fit the mold for a lot of things. Got some emails this morning. Instead of responding to them, I left the house, listened to Kurt Rosenwinkel, and calmed down. So there's been the high energy and the low energy that I find myself in with it. But has it slapped me or rocked my world in a eye-opening moment? I can't say that it has, but man, it's been such a great album to put in any circumstance. So it makes me think maybe it has really smacked me around, and I'm just so comfortable getting smacked around by good music that I'm used to it now. So I don't know. I'm wrestling. I've got my score locked in, so I know where I'm going with it. I loved it. Matt, what about you?
After I listened to
Don't
the
tell
next,
me it sounds so much like Pat Metheny.
no,
You
uh-uh.
loved it.
no, but I will say, after I listened to the next step, I started immediately rabbit holing into Kurt's other work. The one that I came up with is A Lovesome Thing. Okay, and that's the 2023 album.
Such a great one.
It's an amazing album. My note was, my heart is filled with joy. The last track, one of the last tracks, the last 30, 40 or 40 seconds, they morph into a Pat Metheny song, just as simple as can be. And it's just, again, it's only 30 or 40 seconds long, but it's Pat's tune. And he's just giving a nod of the hat to Pat. And it just blew me away. And from then forward, my outlook all week long was different. It was different towards Kurt. It was, he he can compose music like no one else. Okay. His compositions just blow me away. They really do. He doesn't have to stand out. He doesn't have to be forefront, screaming guitar. He's not John McLaughlin. Let's put it that way. You know, John has to be front and center of just about everything that he does, the loudest playing and the fastest notes and everything else. And that's not Kurt. That's what I appreciate about Kurt. He led me this week to so much other guitar music that, again, I've been kicking myself all week. Tal Farlow. I did put a couple of albums of Tal Farlow in my ear. I was just blown away. Somehow I got to Emily Remler. She was a guitar player, born in 1957. She passed away in 1990. But she's got 8 albums as a leader. Emily Remler. I listened to 2 or 3 of her albums this week. And her and Kurt, I don't think they ever collabed, but her style is very similar to Kurt's and to Pat's. So for me, I'm just so super excited because now I've got another name to go to when I think I need something besides Pat, because it's too easy for me to go back to Pat Metheny, to go back to Esbjorn Svensson, to go back to Cannonball Adderley, something else. It's too easy to go to those. Jeremy Ledbetter, Gravity. I got to unpin that from the top of my library because it's just too dang easy to click on it and listen to the whole thing when I could be listening to Kurt Rosenwinkel.
Yeah.
He blew me away because of who he's sideman with. Brad, you play with Brad, forget about it. You're in my book, in my good graces. You play with Gary Burton, you're in my book for good graces. Yeah. I mean, I was just blown away all week. I did, even though I rabbit holed and listened to a lot of other music, it was always the next step that I kept coming back to and thinking, this is right where I want to be. So,
do you find that the guitar resonates with you?
I find the guitar resonates with me, the vibes resonates with me, the trumpet resonates with me, the tenor sax resonates with me.
Yeah.
Flugelhorn resonates with me. Yes, I do. I do. I do.
And it's not just any style of guitar I'm referring to. I'm thinking in terms of these hollow bodies. Dad mentioned the arch tops when we looked at Crispell. No, it was Who's Next?
Was it John Hollenbeck?
Yes. And so that style really resonates pretty well with you because of your addiction to Pat Metheny albums.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the compositions though are really what got me. His composing, his style of writing really interests me. It drew me in this week. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to rate first?
Oh, take a deep breath. My score this week was 7.5.
Okay.
7.5.
Did you change it at all because of the earlier discussion? Would you admit to that if you did?
I cannot tell a lie. No, I didn't change it.
Okay.
But 7.5. The first several times through, I didn't feel it. There was the spirit of it that didn't trip my trigger.
Yeah.
It didn't burst my bubble, but it just didn't go there for me. Now, creativity, definitely. The craftsmanship, like you've said, Matt, the composition, that just over the top.
Yeah.
And so, again, my score 7.5.
Okay. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Don't hate it one bit.
Nope.
I found that the guitar this week resonated with me in a lot of different ways. And I know it's my personal week that has been shaped by a lot of it. But the craftsmanship, Dad, your audio selection at the beginning talks about how they can work together just flawlessly, seamlessly. They tend to play together. And that's the awareness as well. You've got to be able to play together like you did. The creativity and the compositions that he's written, as well as what other songs did he not do on this one?
No, he did all the tunes. He did all the tunes on the next
Kurt stuff. For me, the spirit and the drive may have been lacking because, like you, I was expecting just this raw emotion, but it wasn't a big sign. It was all the small ones that added up to me that became the spirit and the drive. And, of course, the emotion loved it. I really did. So I ended up rating this week at a 9. A lot of my influence in that went to the fact that beyond the composer, piano player, guitarist, he is also an educator. And it was clear when you get to listen to him and Rick Beato talk about some things in some of the other interviews. I have a lot of great regard for the jazz musicians who are out there also teaching and trying to bring the next generation forward.
Drew, what would it have taken to get it to a 9.5 or a 10?
That's a good question. To me, the 9.5 or even the 10 would have been a little bit, maybe a song that brought a whole lot of heat. Getting back into that ebb and flow, that up and down of music. All of them kind of stayed in consistency. They were all great songs, but nothing that elevated it, nothing that brought it down. I was still confused with Minor Blues today, trying to figure out if it was 4/4 or 8/8 time. It's written in 4/4 time. It just happens to be written in G flat, which I love the minor blues. I've been trying to learn how to play over the minor keys blues. There's just something in an A flat, B flat to me that just, it's haunting, but it's beautiful. All of them had that beautiful tone, but nothing really stood up. I never had a ladyfinger or a black cat explode in my fingers. How's that? It didn't bring me to the danger zone. That's what would have been 9.5 or 10. They were almost all consistent. Beautiful, but almost every song had some consistencies to it, which I guess that's what I would be looking for. If I was making the music, I want my music to be consistent, but I don't know. I don't. That's a tough one. I don't like that question tonight.
Okay. Would you recommend it to a first time
Yes.
or a brand new listener?
Yes, I would.
Dad?
I would with some criteria, just to be prepared for the variety, but the ebb and flow of it. But I would suggest don't listen to it just one time. Take your time, listen to several of the tracks at a time, go back and add more tracks, and then try to listen to it in its total. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that.
Okay.
So what's your rating, Matt?
The criteria was all there for me this week. The craftsmanship, it just blew me away. The way that he composed, the way that he let others shine and didn't have to take the spotlight, the awareness, the clip that you played, like Drew mentioned, how aware they are together, playing together, the creativity for me. When I can close my eyes and listen to a tune and literally zone out and just let my mind wander, the creativity just flows. And I just can't. The spirit of the music is there for me this week as well. But it's the emotion that's pushing it all the way to the top for me. It's a 10. I had a great week with Kurt. And I got to be honest, I did not listen to the full Rick Beato interview. I only caught the first 5 or 6 minutes of the Beato interview. So I haven't even really heard him talk to Kurt too much. I started that this afternoon, and I thought, well, I better watch a little bit of it just in case there's something important that I'm going to miss in the conversation, but I didn't make it through. So the other thing is I didn't want to be swayed by Rick, persuaded to one way or the other. I wanted to come in with my own ideas on Kurt, and I'm in love. Next to Pat Metheny. Okay, well, yeah. It just gives me another avenue to explore.
Yeah.
It gives me another avenue to explore of guitar music besides Pat Metheny.
You can always go back to Tal Farlow too.
Yeah.
All the new names that were opened up this week.
Right.
Some of
Absolutely.
that also plays into that scoring. What didn't I know? Ooh, look. I fell way deep into that rabbit hole. I jumped in the puddle expecting it to be a rabbit hole. It was only knee deep.
We've come off of 3 weeks of hard music for me to comprehend, and then to take a bite of something nice and sweet and tasty, and man, I devoured it. I did. I devoured it. I loved it. So
Much like the pork chop you fixed on Sunday?
much like the pork chop, I did. I devoured it.
Yeah.
But yeah, go.
Tell me your week then, since you're warmed up.
My week? Okay. I had a great week. It was Mother's Day, so I we got to host everyone yesterday. So I love I love cleaning the house for people to come over, and I love listening to jazz while I do it. And I had Pat Metheny in my ear and Kurt Rosenwinkel in my ear on shuffle. I had two albums picked out, and I let them shuffle between each other while I cleaned and cooked yesterday. So absolutely loved it. Again, Tal Farlow. I listened to the Cappy album from Kurt. That one didn't impress me as much. I didn't really care for Cappy. Heartcore, the 2003 album from Kurt. Loved it. I really did. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't rate it a 10. The other one that we talked about earlier with Gigi on it.
Jerry Allen.
Jerry Allen. A Love Some Thing. Holy moly. I'm going to pin that to the top of my iTunes list so I can come back to it next week or 2 weeks from now. I just enjoyed this week so much. I had some other music in my ear too. I heard a song on our radio channel that I haven't heard in a while from Rick Braun. So I put Rick Braun back in my ears, trumpet player from the 80s and 90s. Again, I'm trying to fill the gap between 85 and 2000 and 2001. Rick kind of fills that trumpeter gap for me. I'm a huge Rick Braun fan. So I put some Rick Braun in my ear this week too. I had a lot of great music in my ear. I had a decent week. I really did.
Good. Well, Matt, I'm going to remind you of Dad's earlier statement. You can run fast by yourself, but you can run farther together. Don't run too fast trying to fill in that gap between the late 80s and 2000, because we're going to have to catch up sooner or later. So no matter how fast you sprint, you've got to wait on the slowest runner, which might just be me if it's really running. I might be there next decade. So chillax. I know that you're just enjoying that. So
that might have to be its own separate episodes of how we fill in the gap. There's so many artists that are available in that time period, but it feels like we've turned off the lights from 85 and then woken up in 2001 not knowing what's going on. That for me.
Yeah.
And again,
the only glimpse was the epic.
Yeah.
That was our only glimpse into what was coming. And I think it was a powerful one.
It was.
I'm a skip. Go ahead and tell you this week, it's been a busy week. I wish that I'd had as much time to listen to music and enjoy it as I have in the past. It was tough. I did listen to the Tal Farlow that you sent over and the Jerry Allen, Kurt Rosenwinkel. I listened to Kurt on shuffle a couple of times, but I just kept coming back to the album because I kept thinking, what clip? And then I heard something in the back of my head about learning the timing of music when you solo. Do you know where you're at in the song? And Matt, there's a story that you told about Judy and you playing in ISMA when she said, well, just pick it up at measure 129 or whatever it was. And you just picked it up and started playing it. Do I know music well enough to pick that up at that place? And that's when I started listening to Minor Blues again. And I'm like, how would I follow this? Where's the bridge? Where's the head? Where's the solos begin? How many times did they repeat? And is it a song that I could hum to? You know, you think of all the great songs of the past, and you could probably whistle them, sing them, play a nose flute, to all the songs of the past because they were recognizable, but some of these were not as recognizable. And I started to reflect just on the last couple of weeks of my life. It's not recognizable. It's been a lot of go time, a lot of projects up in the air, which is great. A lot of bids on projects coming, whether they happen or not. This constant drumming of things, and in the middle of that, I get the phone call that we may not be able to be residents at Texas Jazz and Blues Camp. The dates are wrong, so as we're sitting here, I just got the text, hey, we do have hotel rooms. We got a sweet deal not far from the school. It does have a buffet breakfast, and it does have a swimming pool, which is good, but that just means then that 2 of us will be staying with 15 kids at a hotel. For a lot of these kids, they're local. What's the deal with the hotel room? You're not going to get loud. You're not going to get crazy. So maybe all of these things are churning, and that's been my last 2 weeks. So I'm appreciative of it because it's stretching me, just like the last few weeks in music has. I'm going to grow. from all of this. There is no doubt about it. I'm going to grow to appreciate the tough times and the good times and the good musics and the bad musics. I'm going to grow to appreciate, maybe one day, Peter Brotzman. But in the meantime, leave it alone. So that's my week. Dad, what about you?
Well, with respect to music, while I'm working on my memoirs, my bicycling memoirs, I've got some music on my computer that Matt gave me years ago. So one of the albums I listened to was Watercolors by our man Pat. I listened to Third Force. I really dig their music. The album I listened to this week was Gentle Force. And I was going to listen to some more of that, but then I thought, well, no, let's go back to Pat Metheny again with The Way Up.
Oh.
Which
let's see, what number is that on the list? We got a while before we get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that just a spoiler? Did you just ruin my vacation?
I didn't ruin anybody's vacation. You're going to forget about it in 20 weeks. So we got a ways.
So where did I find American Crow by your gal Maria Schneider?
Yes. Did you purchase that? You've had to purchase.
No, I found it somewhere, and I listened to it.
That's brand new for Maria. That not brand new, but it came out within the last 3 or 4 months.
There's a video that I saw, and of course, thoroughly enjoyed it. I found a new Chicago album called Born for This, which it does. They're trying to sound like Chicago. Okay, it just didn't strike me as one of the Chicago pieces that I like.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I watched the video for the Rosenwinkel interview. Something else that came up this week was the fact that the South Wayne Elementary School was closing. As I understand it, they're gonna raise part of that building and just leave part of it up and turn it into administrative offices. So Saturday from 2 to 4 was an open house, and hundreds of students and teachers, former teachers came, and it was quite an emotional charge for a lot of those teachers.
Yeah.
And especially for the principal, who earlier was interviewed, Friday was interviewed on television about the school, and the poor dear just broke down in tears. She'd been there 20 years as a principal. Before that, she was a teacher there. Your mom taught with her at South Wayne. And so she got emotional on TV. I felt so badly for her. So then after that, we went to the club room and listened to just a warm-up with Chuck Surak's group. And then
Sweetwater All-Stars.
What's that?
The Sweetwater All-Stars. Yep.
Yeah. Who, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Matt. Craig Chiquita?
Craig Chiquico.
Yeah. Acoustic Planet.
Yes.
That was the album I listened. What's that?
I love that album.
Yeah, I do too. So that's been my week. We spent some time at Planet Fitness on stationary bikes. I'm looking forward to possibly this week, depending on the weather, to getting on my bike.
Good.
And seeing how I can get along. I'm getting over the fear of falling. I think I have enough balance to get on the bike. My concern is getting off the bike without falling.
You're on flat pedals again, though, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been on flat pedals for a couple of years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, there we go. Looking forward to
Well,
this week as well.
yeah, your notepad is open and you're warmed up. So tell us, Daddy-O, what's new in jazz?
What's new?
Okay. The album title is Scenes from Above. The artist is Julian Lage, Lage. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, but there's one of the problems I had evaluating and rating the album with Rosenwinkel was that I listened as much, if not more, to this album. And it stirred me a lot. And on this album, you're going to hear the Hammond B3. And it rocks your world when you listen to the blending of that album, of that instrument.
Yeah.
They also have on this album a Chamberlin. It's like a piano type thing that was, I think it's a keyboard. It was done and produced by Harry Chamberlain from 1949 to 1956. So if we reflect back to some of our albums, we might find the Chamberlin keyboard. There's also a Dulcitone, which is also a type of keyboard, and that dates back to 1860 by a Thomas Mitchell. So this is some really good music. It sounds a lot like what Rosenwinkel plays with additional instruments. So
Julian Leger is a guitar player, correct?
yeah. I have a quote from Pop Matters. Apparently it's a rating area or just a critic. And Pop Matters, Will Lehman stated that, let me see, it was stated, Joe Medeski colors each composition to perfection. For all its ease of listening, this album isn't comfort food as much as it is a really balanced meal. And that's what you're going to find when you listen to this album by Julian. How do you pronounce his name?
I believe it's Julian Leger.
Okay.
I don't know either.
It's from Above. It was released in 2026. 9 songs long, 42 minutes total on Blue Note label.
Yep.
Wow.
There you have it.
Cool.
It's a good
Yep.
pick.
Look forward to listening to that. Matt,
Yeah.
what's next? Where are we going next week?
Okay. Well, we're still on the list. We're still in 2001, and I'm super excited to stay in 2001 with next week's album. John Scofield, Works for Me is the name of the album. It's 11 songs, 1 hour and 11 minutes, and it was released in 2001. It's on the Verve label, Verve, Verve. So John Scofield, Works for Me. I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to work for me next week. Knowing the very little that I know about John Scofield, I'm ready to dive in face first. So, hey, thank you for sticking around this long. I think we're all wrapped up, right? We're ready to say goodbye. All right.
Yep.
So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We need all the subscribers. So tell your friends as well. Hit the bell and you'll get notified when our new episodes come out. See you next week. Thanks for
See you
sticking around.
guys.